Welcome to Pulling the Plug. I'm Tatenda and I'm joined by my co-host, Tsitsi. This is a program where we delve into the complexities of addiction and recovery. And our issue is not only just to focus on the problem of addiction itself, but to bring about solutions and the path to recovery. So today, we are joined by someone who is a true beacon of change and recovery in the whole addiction and substance use subject. And so please join me in welcoming Dr. Emmanuel Nusu, who has joined us today. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Nusu. We are excited and honored to have you on this program, and absolutely no doubt that we're going to be having a discussion that is going to be insightful and filled with wisdom. So to start off our discussion, I'd like to ask, when we look at your profile, it says that you recently came back to Zimbabwe, right? Which means you were born here, but you're not based here. Could you briefly take us through your background?
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, and I'm glad to be here. In terms of my background to substance abuse, substance addiction problems, the first starting point is that I used to struggle with alcohol and drugs myself. So I know firsthand what it means to have hangover. I know firsthand what it means to get in trouble and continue to get in trouble as if nothing has happened. So that's the first part. Now, the second part is that when I started working with people who were having problems with alcohol and drugs, my efforts to help were not very successful because people would come to the program, go home, and drink again, come to the program or other programs in the cities where I was working. And then they would continuously go home, drink and come back, drink, do drugs and come back. So I was concerned as a, competent therapist, I want people to change. And so that started me to look into why are people relapsing? Why are people continuing to drink and do drugs when they've said that they want to change? So I really wanted to know what was going on. Now, as a therapist, I was tired of being more interested in the recovery of the addict more than they were interested. And I'm sure there are many other therapists in this country who are also tired of seeing people come for help, go home and do it again, come for help, go home and do it again. In fact, I have talked to some therapists who were telling me that now they're afraid or scared to go to the shopping mall because they might meet the mother or the father or the parent of somebody they're helping, and they will be saying, "Oh, my daughter, that boy has relapsed again." They're telling me that they are tired. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to say to the person who is having the problem, and they don't have anything to say to the mother. They have nothing to say. But when you use the research, the program that I've come up with, you give responsibility for recovery to the person themselves because they are going to talk about what they believe, instead of talking about what is outside there. So in a nutshell, that's my background, and to help therapists, to help counselors, help the alcohol and drug addict and also the family members.
Thank you very much, Doc. So as you have highlighted, you've already talked to, some therapists.
Yes.
And some individuals.
Yes.
And you can tell that the issue of drugs and substance abuse is on the mouths of a lot of Zimbabweans because now they're looking to solutions. They're looking for solutions. So if you did highlight your involvement with this issue, but if you could maybe highlight also your professional qualifications and a little more about your involvement in this issue.
My qualifications, let me start that because it's kind of easy to clear. I have a doctorate in psychology. I have a master's in mental health counseling. I have a BA from the University of Rhodesia. I am a certified addictions professional in the state of Florida. I'm also a licensed mental health counselor. With over 20 years experience working specifically with people who struggle with alcohol and drugs. So that's my qualifications. But of course, the fact that I used to struggle myself, that's another qualification, because I'm not just using textbook material, you know. I'm talking from experience, both as an addict and also as a professional who is helping people to quit and stay sober. You asked about the solution. Was it the problem?
Your involvement in the issue.
Yeah, that's my involvement, you know, in helping people to accurately understand what is going on.
Yes.
Because sometimes you ask, you know, why are you here? What do you need? What is the problem? Oh, my mother is the problem. Oh, my wife talks too much. Or, you know, the road has potholes. I dropped out of school, you know, so can you change your mother? Can you, you know, the economy, can you change the economy? So it's helping people to understand that the problem is not out there. The problem is inside. You know, the problems outside, they are always going to happen. But can you change them? The answer is no. There are some things you can change. But, you know, like I said, you can't stop your mother from talking to you. You can't stop your spouse from, asking you, where have you been? So it's helping people to understand that the problem is inside. What is inside a person? These are very important issues inside which people neglect when trying to solve the problem. Inside you have your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings, your mood, your attitude. Do you have control over your beliefs? Yes. Do you have control over your thoughts? Yes. Do you have control over your feelings? Yes. Do you have control over your mood and your attitude? Yes. So my involvement is direct people to go inside and work on those issues that are under their control. If you change what you believe and what you think about your mother will be a loving person again.
And you know, I'm so intrigued before we touch more on, you know, what you were talking about the beliefs and everything. I'm intrigued by the fact that you mentioned that you've been, you know, an addict before, right?
Yes.
And, you know, we have this idea of what it looks like, you know, textbook idea of what it looks like to be, you know, to be an addict, right? So maybe you can help us on what does addiction look like really when it comes to drugs and substances and maybe even alcohol? What does it really look like?
Yeah, that's a very important question, because sometimes we have stereotypes about what an addict or alcoholic is like. But the truth is that addiction has no eyes. It doesn't matter whether you went to college or you dropped out. It doesn't matter whether you live in Borodale or you live in the ghetto. It doesn't matter whether you are married or you are single. It doesn't matter whether you are a girl or a boy. Addiction has no eyes. Addiction does not look at your status or the amount in your bank. So that's one thing. You have rich people who struggle with alcohol and drugs. You have poor people who struggle with alcohol and drugs. So the stereotypes, I don't know, people hold them. I don't know how they work for them, but my experience is that there's no one who you say he is drinking because he's rich, he's drinking because he's a single person mother. You know, everybody can be affected by alcohol and drugs. Now, in terms of what is addiction, addiction is a loss of control. You start drinking and you cannot stop. You have lost the ability to start and stop. It's loss of control. When you lose control, many things in your life go out of control. And if you can look and see the life of addicts, nothing is in control. It's all chaos. It's all disorganization. It's all dysfunction because the person has lost control. So when we talk of recovery, we are saying your recovery is regaining control over your life, regaining control over day-to-day functioning, regaining control over how you manage your money, regaining control over how you manage your time, regaining the love and trust that you have lost, you know, from family members, from your friends, from your loved ones. And sometimes, you know, not sometimes, you want to regain loving yourself again. Because addiction, when you look at the life they live, that's a lot of self-abuse. That's a lot of self-harm. So you want to regain the relationship that you need to have with yourself. Self-love, self-respect, self-trust. That's in a nutshell what addiction is and what recovery is all about.
Thank you very much, Doc. So from your experience, you're coming from USA,
Yes.
and now you're in Zimbabwe. You're helping us with this drug and substance issue. Our question then is, are there some similarities and differences that you have, come across USA and Zimbabwe?
Thank you very much for that very important question. There are similarities, there are differences, but in terms of dealing with the problem, you might find that the similarities are not as important as, the differences are not as important as the similarities. What is different is that obviously this country is not as wealthy or rich in terms of their people. There's the United States. The economy there is different from here. The weather there is different from here. So they're all the external. Yes, those are the differences. But you still have in the United States educated people getting hooked on alcohol and drugs. You still get uneducated people, just like in Zimbabwe, hooked on alcohol and drugs. You get people with jobs in America getting hooked on alcohol and drugs. So do you get people who are jobless and without employment getting hooked on alcohol and drugs as it is in here? But you see, the problem is recovery. You see, when we talk about addiction, I've already said it's loss of control. So loss of control in Zimbabwe is loss of control in America. You find that an addict will do something which harms him, but he continues to do it because he's deceiving or she's deceiving herself that this is helping me. I will drink because this helps me to get rid of the pain. I will do this. But if you look at the benefits, they are outweighed by the disadvantages, by the problems. So what is happening? What is happening is that people are drinking and driven by self-deception. You fall into a pit. Tomorrow you walk along the road, you fall into the same pit. And the next day you fall into the same pit. Day after day you're falling into the same pit. The only way I can understand that kind of behavior is that somebody is deceiving himself that falling in the pit is good for me. So what we have self-deception. We have self-deception in Zimbabwe. We have self-deception in America. We have self-deception in America, in London. Addicts anywhere, they are dishonest. Addicts in Zimbabwe are dishonest. Addicts in London are dishonest. Addicts in New York are dishonest. Addicts in Zimbabwe are trustworthy to themselves, are unreliable to themselves. And so you have addicts in New York who are untrustworthy to themselves, unreliable to themselves, irresponsible to themselves. So those are similarities, and those are the issues which have to be dealt with in recovery. If we don't deal with those inner issues, the alcohol is not going to be able to stay sober. They will still be untrustworthy. They will still be dishonest. They will still be in self-deception. They will still be unreliable and undependable. And so those are similarities which should really be the heart of recovery.
I appreciate the fact that you've really given us a picture of how we can't alienate ourselves exactly, from this problem, the way it affects, it's a global issue, right?
Yes.
Essentially, that's what it is.
Yes.
And you've talked about recovery as well. So maybe you can take us through your recovery program, which is called How to Stay Sober. Please just tell us more a bit about that.
Okay, thank you very much. How to Stay Sober. I came up with the How to Stay Sober because I could see people could stop drinking for a few days, could stop using drugs for a few weeks, a few months, but they couldn't stay sober because they wanted to stay sober. So my research was, how can I help people to stay sober? How can I help people to quit and stay sober? So what I did was examine what was going on. So, for example, I had one guy, 47 years old. He had attended 30 recovery programs in his life, and had more than 5 pending cases of assault. So my first thing was, you have attended 30 meetings, no, not 30 meetings, 30 recovery programs in your life. What have you been using to help yourself? Since, you now must be a professor. after attending 30 programs, you must know everything in and out. You should really be teaching me what it is about. But that guy could not say a single thing that he had learned from those 30 programs, which he could use. He said something, but from that something, there was nothing which I could say, okay, this is what he had learned. So if you learn nothing from any program, you are using the same beliefs, old beliefs, the same old thinking patterns, the same old emotional responses, the same mood and attitude. The same thinking, the same beliefs does not give you new life, unfortunately.
True. Yeah.
So how to stay sober is to say, believe different, think different, have different emotional responses, have different mood and attitude, and that can be done. So you go inside, you work inside, instead of trying to work on the outside. And the good thing about working inside with your beliefs, with your thoughts, with your feelings, is that people begin to take ownership of the recovery program. But when we are talking about outside things, people don't take ownership. But if it's my beliefs, if it's my thinking, that's mine. I can no longer be blaming my mother, my sisters, or my brothers about my problems. I take ownership and I get committed to changing my beliefs. I get committed to changing my thinking. I get committed to changing my mood and my attitude. Now, that's the essence of how to stay sober recovery program.
Thank you very much, Doc. I love the fact that you talked about belief systems, someone's attitude on a personal level as the individual. But we might also be interested with the family unit now, or the people they're relating to. Don't you think some of these belief systems can also be counterproductive to someone's recovery program or recovery journey?
Yes, that's a very important point. That's a very important question. Beliefs are key to transformation. Alcohol and drug addiction is a family disease. If one member of the family is using alcohol and drugs, the whole family is sick. Now, there are some people who say, people should be brought together. I don't have any problem with that. But what I found to be working very well is that when we believe as individuals. When we think as individuals. When we feel as individuals. Our mood, our attitude are individual. Now, what I have been doing is to help to change the individual. When we change the individual to believe differently, to think differently, to feel differently, that has an effect on the family. Before, this individual was treated as an enemy. But if we change this individual to love himself, respect himself, trust himself, to be honest, to be trustworthy, that enemy is now in the past. We have a different person, and people can be trained to become honest again, to become loving, to become kind. So the enemy is no longer there. The world in us, the world around us, deal with us with what we are projecting to them. And so if we are projecting something new, there will be no room for fighting. They can still be having hangover. So if we change one person, the family can also change. But you see, because everyone has been sick, family members might also need help to regain control by taking back their power from the alcoholic in the family. So they need help because they are used to stress, they are used to anger, they are used to frustration, they are used to sadness and sometimes depression. So they would also need help so that when they change as individuals, they are going to change the whole dynamic. So that's the approach. And now I am working more on an individual basis. In most cases, by the time we go to the 50th session, and my sessions may be 45 minutes, by the time we get to the 50th session, the person is transformed because they are taking ownership that I have been very selfish. In most cases, individuals will, if you say you are selfish, they don't take it. But in the How to Stay Sober program, people realize and accept that they have been very selfish. And that's a big breakthrough, which may not be able to come up when you're in a family group setting. Because selfish, you want to fight. They own that they have been, self-centered. And these are coming out in those, inside the individual. Some people cry when they know that they have been blaming family, but all along it was because they were selfish. They were self-centered. And sometimes those are difficult to bring out in the family setting. But if the individual is working on himself and accepts that, they are quick to really say, yeah, I see I've been very selfish. I see I've been untrustworthy. I see I've been self-centered. I see that I've been dishonest. And I really want to work on myself. And when they do that, the healing begins in that individual and in the family.
Yes, yes. I like the direction our discussion has taken because, when we're talking about family, this is what, as Zimbabweans, this is what our culture really places importance on. So I think, you're actually helping our audience to actually see this in a new light as well, to understand, how as an individual, you actually do contribute a lot, to your recovery. And so with the How to Stay Sober program, have you started it with any Zimbabweans? If you have, how is that going so far?
Thank you for that question. Yeah, I have started Zimbabwe. In October last year, I spent 1 week at Assumption Catholic Church, that's in Greendale. I trained them over 5 days, and I think now they are on their 4th group of helping people in the community.
Wow.
The program at the Assumption Catholic Church runs for 4 weeks. They meet in the mornings from 9 to 12 over a 4-week period. And I think there's a group starting today. Yeah, there is a group starting today. And the results they speak for themselves. The addicts who come to those groups say, this is the program we want for the country. Because most of the people who go to the Assumption Catholic Church program, they have been to different treatment programs. And they have never been told to work inside. They have never been told to realize, recognize, and understand that they have been selfish, they have been self-centered. It's the first time they are exposed to that they have to work inside. That you cannot change your mother, you can change what you believe and think about your mother. So we are doing some work here. The Catholic Assumption Catholic Church is doing it. There are 10 people who are trained there. Then I trained 20 other people for 5 days sometime last year. And they have started groups in different parts of the city. We haven't moved outside Harare, but we are hoping that we will have more training going on in other areas. And I know there's a lady who attended the Arcadia meeting who has started group therapy at some Chitungu's Catholic Church. And the people are very excited that there is healing in how to stay sober. There's transformation. Now, most people, when they go and seek help, they are hopeless, they are helpless, they are sick and tired of being sick and tired. But in How to Stay Sober, we say recovery is possible and always available. Even to the person who says, I've tried everything and I have failed, recovery is still possible and always available. How is it possible? How is it always available? It's always available when you go inside. When you move from outside and go inside to those things that you can change, which we have been talking about, your beliefs, your thoughts, your feelings. So yes, we are doing some work in Zimbabwe.
So, Dr. Nusu, while we're on the topic of the How to Stay Sober program, right, I would like to ask, these sessions that you're talking about, as an individual, is it me just showing up for a session, you know, like the way I do with a therapist probably? Is there any medication that's involved?
Thank you very much for that very important question. When I saw this problem going on, the facilities I was working with, they were medical doctors, they were psychiatrists, they are still there. So people were getting medication, you know, for different mental health issues or even medical issues, but they were not staying sober. Now, I'm not saying there's no place for medication. There is a place for medication. But my question was, can medication help a person to be honest? Can medication help a person to be self-aware? Because self-deception was a big problem. Can medication help a person to be patient, to be practice humility, to be move from selfishness to kindness, to being considerate? That was not happening. So there is a place for medication. Where the groups are being run here in Zimbabwe, I encourage them to work with psychiatrists so that if there are patients who need psychiatric help, medication, they are referred to the psychiatrist. But the more emphasis is on the inside. When a person is honest, when a person is self-aware, when a person is trustworthy, he is likely or she is likely to stay sober. They can still take medication, but they can still successfully quit and stay sober by using this program.
Great. Thank you very much. And now my interest is, there's someone out there right now looking at this and saying, I definitely need to be part of this program. So the question then is, how does one get on it? And if so, if they're to get on it, what are the cost implications?
The person to get in touch with is Doris Msasa on 077-234-2631. Doris 077-234-2631. Also, you can contact me by WhatsApp. I won't be able to answer calls, but I can respond to WhatsApp text 077-650-5052. Can I repeat that? 0776-50-5052. You can also check us on Facebook, How to Stay Sober on Facebook. Also the website, www.soberatLastacademy.com, on website www.soberatLastacademy.com. Now, one of the things really is this program is good for the people who struggle with alcohol and drugs. But this is also very more important to therapists, to psychologists, facilitators of drug and alcohol and drug recovery, because it's very disheartening to see people coming back and again and again. It's very disheartening. But the How to Stay Sober program gives them an opportunity to reach inside the addict, to reach inside the alcoholic, and have some rich discussion on what is going on. The therapist, the social worker working with this population, you are able to help people to become a new person with a new life, free from alcohol and drugs, which is different from relapse after relapse after relapse. And also you are able to help your patients, your clients, to regain control of their lives by taking back their power from alcohol and drugs. One of the things I've seen about alcohol and drug addicts is that they live in the past. If you talk to them, they're always talking about what happened, what went wrong, how things are not working. They are living in the past. But in How to Stay Sober, a social worker, a therapist, a psychologist, you are able to help your patients to move away from the past and to have their lives guided by a vision of the future instead of memories of the past. Now that's very, very critical.
Yes.
For people to be guided by a vision of the future instead of memories of the past. And the program will help a therapist to do exactly that. Because sometimes we tell people, stop drinking, stop doing this. Okay, I have stopped. What next? So if there's no vision of life after alcohol and drugs, people will go back to what they know. So I would appeal to therapists, psychologists, to take part in these programs so that they can help their patients to be free from the bondage of alcohol and drugs.
You know what, Dr. Nusu, I so wish we could have the whole day to just talk and talk and talk, because you've shared so much insight and so much, incredible and helpful information. And so maybe just before we round up, someone was probably not listening to the whole conversation that we've had, the discussion that we've had, but maybe just one last thing you would like to share with our audience, someone who's bleeding, who is hurting, who is struggling with this animal called addiction.
Yeah. My final words is that as individuals, all of us, people who drink, people who don't drink, people who do drugs, people who don't do drugs, you live the life that you pay attention to. Anything you pay attention to becomes your life. You live a life that you rehearse every day. That you think about, that you talk to yourself about. That's the life that you're going to live. So if you are going to live a different life, look at what you are paying attention to on a daily basis. Look at what you are rehearsing on a daily basis. Remember, you don't get what you want. You get what you are. And that's a big difference. And sometimes people wonder, why am I not getting what I want? No, you get what you are. What you are is in your subconscious mind. What you are is what you think about every day, how you feel every day, what you think every day, how you feel every day. That's what you are. And if you don't change that, you are always going to get what you are and not what you aren't. Since I started my research in 2004, by 2019, I had accumulated a lot of information which I decided to publish into my book, this one here, How to Stay Sober. Now, after publishing How to Stay Sober, I realized that people need to practice what they have here. So I put together a workbook. That's for people to read the textbook and the workbook. And then along the way, I said, okay, I need a facilitator's manual. A facilitator's manual, that's for the therapists to be able to apply what is in these two books. So there are 3 books which I set: the How to Stay Sober book, How to Stay Sober workbook, and How to Stay Sober Facilitators Manual. So the people who go through the program, they are supposed to get this set. The program itself is 5 days. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doc.
Thank
And
you.
thank you to our viewers for joining us here at Bluffhill SDA Church, either Facebook page or YouTube channel. This is Pulling the Plug, where we are here to help you rewire your destiny.